Hello, everyone. This is your host, Debra Poneman, and I'd like to welcome you to our call with today's guest, Dr. Symeon Rodger, who will be speaking to us on the topic Systematic Manifesting 2.0, 21 days to mastering the manifesting process and 14 more days to create your new life, even if you failed up to now. Dr. Rodger is a university professor, best-selling author, martial arts expert, and an expert in emergency management trained in counter-terrorism. In fact, Dr. Rodgers has run top secret intelligence operations for the Canadian government. And the other side of the coin, he's co-created a law of attraction program promoted by several stars of the hit movie, The Secret. As diverse as his background may seem, his complete knowledge and expertise in all areas of life is what's allowed him to create his powerful personal transformation methods. Dr. Rodger explains that the process to manifesting the life you want goes way beyond just getting the stuff you want. It's about transforming your life on all levels. And today, he's going to share with us the 6 factors that have sabotaged your manifesting ability so far and how to overcome each instantly. How 18th century physicist Sir Isaac Newton has been making your life miserable since birth. A fun scientific process to give you ironclad faith that the law of attraction does exist and that it's been functioning perfectly in your life all along. And a systematic 21-day manifesting protocol that will turn you into an expert manifester, even if you've tried and failed before. Symeon, thank you for joining us today. Welcome to the call.
Hello, Debra. Thank you. It's wonderful to be here again.
I love when you come and visit our community and share your brilliance. And before we dive into some of this information, can you take a few minutes to share with everyone, especially those people who have not heard you before, a little bit about your journey? You have the most amazing background, and it's very fascinating to see how it led you to be the teacher and the leader that you are today. So why don't you tell everyone A to Z about who you are and how you got here?
Okay, well, I'll do that. I'll do that just maybe in a little bit of a different way. And that is to say, we probably have a lot of people here, Debra, who have heard me before. And if you're in that position, if you've heard me before talking about the law of attraction, just to say that there are going to be some things on this particular call that you won't have heard before. So there will be some new material here. And the other thing that I really want everybody to understand is that I'm not here to give you yet another A to Z soup to nuts law of attraction program, because there's so many of those out there already. What I'm here to do is to help you make sense of those programs and to help you to use what you already know, simply because what you already know is insufficient. In other words, almost all the programs out there are incomplete, or they contain information that's a little bit misleading. And that can be very dangerous, and it's enough to sabotage your manifesting progress, your manifesting success. So what I'd really like to do is perform CPR, so to speak, cardiopulmonary resuscitation, on your ability to manifest, because actually all of us are manifestors, Debra. We manifest perfectly all the time. We manifest perfectly all the time because the law of attraction really is a law, and we are continually creating our own lives, but we're creating them based on our emotional content. And the problem is not that we're not manifesting. The problem is that we're manifesting what we don't want. And so what we want to do is bring your conscious desires in line with the rest of your being so that you're able to manifest what you actually want. And that's a big distinction. And, it sounds a little bit arrogant maybe to say that a lot of the programs out there actually don't work, but I'm afraid that's the case. Well, my main field is what I call human resilience. How the human mind-body organism is meant to function, how human life is meant to function. And that's been my one obsession since I was very young, to figure out how human life is meant to work. And when I think about the whole law of attraction mindset thing, this is something that I got into very intensely about 10 years ago when I first started getting into business and realized I had a lot of barriers myself, mindset barriers. And, until you go out of your comfort zone, you don't encounter these barriers. You encounter them when you want to change. And that's vital because we're all here because we want to change. Ask anybody if they want to change their life, and they're almost all going to say yes, definitely. And we want to change our life, but what we need to understand is that in order to do that, we have to go a little bit outside our comfort zone. And when we go outside that zone, that's when we run into all of these problems, all these barriers, and we find out really a tremendous amount about ourselves. And I certainly did that. I was in the thick of it. I had some really serious mindset issues, some very, very great difficulties getting my mind on my side, getting myself to believe I could accomplish what I wanted to. And it was a huge challenge. So if you're in that place right now, please understand, I was you. I have absolutely been there. But I had a strange solution to it, and that is back in 2006, I put together a teleseminar series on the whole issue of mindset and law of attraction in order to bring together some of the main experts in this area and let them tell me and tell everybody else what they know. And eventually I went on, as you said, with my wonderful business partner, Kathy, and another person. We created a mindset law of attraction multimedia program. This was about 5 years ago, and it went on to be sold by and promoted by several stars of the hit mindset movie, The Secret. Now, since then, things have evolved quite a bit, and it's been just an amazing ride. And what I'm about to share with you is how I got from where I was then, being really stuck, to being unstuck. And it's an amazing journey to go through, and I'm going to tell you all about not simply how I did it, but how you can do it, which is a really important thing, because we all get stuck basically through the same processes. It's the same ways. We fall into the same traps. And so that's what we're going to talk about. What I would like to do, though, is it would be a really good idea if you have, first of all, a pen and paper, because you're going to be doing a little bit of writing, and I'm going to be asking you some questions where you're going to be grading yourself on a scale of 0 to 10. And this scale is going to tell you a lot about where you are in your ability to manifest what you want. So it's going to be a really key diagnostic exercise for you. It's going to help you a lot. So that's really it. So shall we go for it?
Yes, and I would love if you could start out by telling us the 6 factors that might have sabotaged our manifesting ability so far. Is that a good place to start?
Oh, absolutely, because we all fall into those same 6 traps. So here we are. So if you're taking notes, the first trap is what I call being wound around the axle. Now, what does wound around the axle mean? It's a bizarre expression that I heard first from a friend of mine, and he would use it this way. Whenever he found someone really upset about something, he would say, "Boy, is she ever wound around the axle about that." So being wound around the axle means you're just so tightly wrapped up emotionally in something you can't see straight, being emotionally compromised in relation to whatever it is. And the catch here is that most of us are emotionally compromised and wound around the axle precisely about what we most want to fix in our life. Because what do we do? The moment we hear about the law of attraction, what do we want to fix? We want to fix what hurts most. We always want to fix what hurts most. So the moment we learn about the law of attraction, this is what we try to do. But there are a few problems with that, because if we're emotionally compromised, that's very difficult to do. Let me give you an example. There's a friend of mine who is an engineer. He's very, very highly educated, very qualified. He's very good at what he does. However, he has huge issues when it comes to money and abundance. And because of this, he's had great trouble keeping a steady job and finding places to apply his know-how. Now, he's a very lighthearted, fun-loving person. If you got him out at the pub and, you gave him a couple of beers, he'd be having a great time. But if you, in the middle of that conversation, if you could hook him up to some medical instruments and then mention the topic of money, you would see some very interesting changes take place. His breathing would change, definitely. His blood pressure would go up a little bit. His heart rate would go up. He would begin to perspire. He would become a little bit agitated. And if we could measure his bloodstream at that point, we would realize that the hormones, neurotransmitters, neuropeptides that are pumping into his bloodstream have all changed. So he would be lapsing into technically what we call defense physiology or defensive physiology. And this is a physiology, it's a physiology that really is a low-grade variant of the fight or flight response. It's low-grade stress response. You cannot possibly manifest what you want because you are at that moment not in a creative mode. You're not able to be creative. You're not able to enjoy. It's a coping mode. It's a survival mode. So it's throwing you back into a negative emotional state. And think about it. What is it that we attract with? Is it our thoughts? You might think it is because of that saying, you become what you think about most of the time, which is only partly true. You become what you think about most of the time, but it has to do with your emotional tone. If your emotional tone, your emotional state is not congruent with what you consciously want, you're not going to get what you consciously want, because the point of attraction within us is precisely our emotional tone. It's where we are vibrating at, and it's the vibratory energy of the heart, not the brain. The brain's energy field is easily detected outside the human body to a range of something like 6 inches to a foot or 15 to 30 centimeters if you're metric. The heart's energy field is detected outside the body to a range easily of somewhere between 8 and 15 feet. In other words, it can be as much as 5 meters away. In fact, scientists will tell you it's only because our instruments are not strong enough. We believe that there is a donut-shaped field of energy emanating from the human heart that runs to a distance of about 8 kilometers. That's 5 miles. Okay? So we are very powerful transmitters, and that's what we transmit. And so to take the example of my friend here, he cannot possibly begin to attract what he wants because the moment the topic comes up, he's vibrating anxiety. So what's he going to get? He's going to get more anxiety. He also doubts, doesn't believe that he can get what he wants. Therefore, what's he projecting? Doubt and disbelief. So he's in a negative emotional state. He will therefore attract and therefore even create those circumstances around him because all of his perceptions are clouded by this. So really, this temptation we have to take on the biggest thing that hurts most in our life when we first hear about the law of attraction, it is akin to taking your first ever martial arts lesson. Let's say you know nothing about fighting, and for the first time in your life you take a martial arts lesson. It's as if you would walk out the door from that first ever martial arts lesson and immediately you would go and challenge Bruce Lee to a death match. Well, how's that going to end? It's only going to end one way, and it's not going to be pretty. Right? So that's what it's that stupid, but it's what all of us do. So in other words, what all of us desperately need is a place where we can work with the law of attraction, get familiar with it, play with it, so to speak, in an environment where we're not taking on these monster issues in our life, an environment where everything is low consequence and low threat. That's what we all desperately need, and that's what I'm going to show you how to get. Now, the first question for you, and here's the first exercise question for you. On a scale of 0 to 10, when you think of your top 1 to 3 goals or the top issues in your life, top 1 to 3 issues that you have, and I'll take it globally, when you think of those top 1, 2, or 3 issues, on a scale of 0 to 10, what is your comfort level, your emotional comfort level when you think about them? So if you feel no resistance at all, you might, and a total belief that you can have what you want, then you can put down 10. But if you feel resistance, then you shouldn't be going above 6 or 7, maybe less. If you feel a lot of resistance, if you have significant doubt, if you feel that when you focus on those, things just aren't flowing, then you're going to be even lower than 5. So put a number down, whatever number feels right to your gut. Now, the second trap is trying to manifest without internal alignment. Without internal alignment. Now, what's internal alignment? You felt it before, many times in life actually, but you maybe haven't known exactly what it was, because we we human beings, if we don't know what to look for and our culture doesn't tell us what to look for, then we don't know what to make of it. When you're totally in alignment with what you're trying to manifest, you feel wonderful about it. You feel enthusiastic about it. You feel excited about it. You feel pulled along toward it. And so instead of having to push yourself toward it, you feel pulled along. That's what alignment feels like. And, I'll give you a quick example from my own life, and this turned out to be a perfect example of it, but it's one that even I didn't recognize at the time. And that was when I set up this teleseminar series back in 2006. Perfect example because the idea came to me out of the blue. And the interesting thing about the next step we should take in life is it usually does come out of the blue. If it's something we think up ourselves, it's usually wrong because our gut is saying no and our head is saying yes. But this time my gut was saying yes. And so this idea came to me. The more I thought about it, the better I felt. I couldn't stop thinking about it. It became like an obsession, a really wonderful obsession. The moment I started taking action to put it together, everything came together. I had mentors come out of the woodwork to help me with it. I had people come to help me with the technical side. I had all the knowledge that I needed. I even had people come and help get my speakers for me. And it took me out of my comfort zone because I had to call up a lot of people who were big names who didn't know me from Adam. And some of them said yes, to my total astonishment. Most of them did, actually. And some said no. And probably two of them were downright rude. But other than that, it was a great time. The whole thing was a great time, but it's even better. Not only was the series a success, despite numerous challenges along the way, and that's an important subnote, this does not mean you will not have challenges. You have challenges, but they don't matter. So the really amazing thing that came from being this aligned with my goal was that the benefits of that particular action of putting together that series have continued until this very day. Every single day since then has changed because of that. Because during that series, I got to know people that I have since started worked with many times, people like Carol Look in the world of the emotional freedom technique, Jack Zufeld, who's become a great mentor of mine, and I found my own business partner during that series. So every single day has been different because of that one decision to follow my gut. And that's what alignment feels like. So if you want to know if you have alignment around your goals, it's really pretty easy. But in order to feel alignment, see, the important thing is you have to get familiar with the feeling of alignment. You have to be able to experience it, be cognizant of it, recognize it for what it is, and learn to recreate it at will. And the only way to do that is when you're playing with the law of attraction in a low-threat environment. So you need to be in a low-threat, low-consequence environment where you can deliberately and continually be creating this state of alignment and getting to know what it feels like. And that's what we're going to show you how to do. It's absolutely vital in order for you to get really, really good at manifesting what you want instead of what you don't want. Now, here's question number 2 for you, and this is the question about alignment. If you think of your top 1 to 3 goals, or the main 1 to 3 issues in your life, ask yourself, on a scale of 0 to 10, how aligned do you feel? If you feel totally excited when you think of these issues, totally excited, enthusiastic, and fully lined up and fully congruent with your mind, your body, spirit, all of you, and totally believing that you can have what you want, then you can put down 10. However, if you feel that something is out of alignment, if you feel that on the one hand it's something you want, on the other hand you have some significant internal resistance, you may have doubt, you may have disbelief, you may have a certain amount of anxiety about some of it, then you shouldn't be putting down anything more than about 5. So just pick the number that feels right to you and put that down. The third trap that we all run into is, and I love this one, trying to manifest without being clear on what we want. Because manifesting requires focus. And if you don't know what you're focusing on, pretty much anything will do. And that's the problem, though, because And it's very strange, and I know, Debra, you encounter this all the time, probably as I do. If you ask any 10 people if they want to change their life, they're going to say, oh, heavens, yes. Why? Oh, my life's terrible. My life sucks. Well, but then when you ask them, what do you want your life to look like? So you know what you don't want, but what do you want? Then you get a bit of a blank stare, because many people have never really thought about it and aren't sure at all what it is that they really, really want. And there's a reason for that. And the reason comes down to our culture, really, because our culture has taught us systematically, it's taught you systematically to ignore what you want. Think about it. The last time that you spent a considerable time focused on what you want, what you're passionate about, what really floats your boat, what really matters to you, may have been 20, 30 years ago when you were in your mid-teens. Because the messaging from society is very clear. By the time you get to your mid-teens, the messaging comes along that says you got to put that stuff away, you got to be responsible, be an adult, grow up, and the subtext, get married, have kids, get a job, whatever it is, sacrifice yourself. And this is interesting. The messaging is put yourself second and sacrifice yourself for the sake of, and then you fill in the blank, whether it's the spouse, the kids, the job, the country, could be anything. So that language of sacrifice is there. And the problem with that is that unless you know who you are, unless you're keyed into who you are, unless you're deeply familiar with who you are and you're able to understand your own passionate drives and interests, you're actually not a full human being. So your ability to help other people is actually limited. And this is the catch. And, every society does this to a certain extent. It's not just ours. But especially when a society is under threat, especially a military type of threat, a society will then circle the wagons and then demand conformity from its citizens. But that conformity is a killing conformity. It may seem expedient at the time, but it kills because, strictly speaking, unless you know who you are, unless you are acting from your deepest core, from your deepest truth, you're not fulfilling your own life purpose. And I'm not talking about knowing what your grand life purpose is, but focusing on what you love is an inherent part of human existence. And the more you are focused on that, the healthier you're going to be. And we can measure that physically. The healthier you will be. The less stress you will have, the happier you will be. Therefore, the better your relationships, the better your health, et cetera, et cetera. That's why knowing what you want is a key. And foregoing what you want, suppressing it, is, in the long term, a really bad strategy, even from the point of view of health, because we now know that something like 86% of cancers have a significant emotional trigger or cause, and only 14% are primarily environmental. And that's very important because what's the emotional cause? Often it's the repression of who we are. It's being unable to express who we are. And that isn't what we want. We want to be able to express who we genuinely are at our deepest core level. So that's why knowing who you are, knowing what you really want, this clarity that all of us need, depends on us having used this clarity muscle. I'll call it a clarity muscle just as a metaphor, but it's a good metaphor because often for many of us, we haven't used this clarity muscle in 20 or 30 years. And it's almost a scary thing to think about. So it's no wonder when we go back and talk about what it is we really want, we actually don't know because we've never thought about it. No one has encouraged us to think about it. We just know what we have now isn't what we want. And that might be in terms of our health, our relationships, it might be finances, it might be, it can be absolutely anything, any aspect of life. So very important to flex this clarity muscle. So what you really need is a process that circumvents your lack of clarity for the moment and allows you to focus on the law of attraction anyway, because it does take time to become clear on what you want. It can take months. But you don't have to wait for months in order to get really good at the law of attraction. You don't. At the manifesting process, you can work on that independently. So what you need is an environment where the fact that you're not clear on what you want for your whole life or for, in the great schema, doesn't really matter. And we're going to show you how to do that. We're going to show you a process where all you have to be clear on is what you want to experience in the next 1 to 2 hours. And pretty much anybody can handle that. So here's the next question for your exercise, which is, if I were to ask you what your top 3 goals are for the coming year, could you rattle them off without even thinking about it? Do you know them as well as you know your own name? Do you know the top 3 goals you have for the coming year? Could you rattle them off as well as you know your own name without thinking about it? So rate yourself again on a scale of 0 to 10. If you in fact know those, as well as you know your own name, give yourself a 10. If you have not ever written them down at all, if you've never written down your top 3 goals for the coming 12 months, then you can give yourself only a 3. And that's being generous. So you need to know them. If you don't know them, if you think you could put them together pretty quickly, but you'd have to think about them, you can give yourself maybe a 5. And that's pretty generous. But this is the whole point, that in order to manifest what we want, we have to be clear. We have to get clarity. And clarity is easy. It's just a matter of learning how to exercise that clarity muscle, which isn't that difficult to do, and we'll show you how to do that. But clarity takes a little bit of time. It can't be forced. That's another interesting thing. You cannot force it. It has to come organically. And, once you know the process, you realize there's no rush. And you don't have to be clear about your entire life. You just have to be clear of what to do next. What's next? So the 4th trap we all fall into, the 4th trap is interesting, and this confuses many people, but the 4th trap is this. It's trying to manifest when you don't actually believe in the law of attraction, when you don't believe in it. Because disbelief makes it very difficult to manifest what you want, because the energy of doubt, the energy of disbelief is extremely negative. It's contrary. So it's not going to pull into you anything that you are really fond of, anything that you really want to experience. Now, I know that, you're probably, a lot of you may be saying, okay, well, good thing he's not talking about me, because I do believe in the law of attraction. Otherwise, I obviously wouldn't be on this call. So he's not talking to me. I wonder who he's talking to. Well, I'm talking to you. I'm talking to you because even though you're here, even though you intellectually believe in the manifestation process, in the law of attraction, in the ability of your consciousness to create your circumstances, the fact is when you go out and actually try it, that's absolute proof that you don't. Because you do on an intellectual level, but on a deep, deep spiritual or gut level, you don't. You're not there yet. And that's the problem. It's much like the words of Jesus Christ in the New Testament, where he says, repeatedly, time after time, in different ways, he hammers people over the head with it, saying, whatsoever you ask for in prayer, believing, you will receive. Ask and it is given. If you have faith the size of a mustard seed, you could tell that mountain to throw itself in the sea, and it would. And he hits this nail on the head over and over and over again. And every time that his disciples fail to produce what they intend through their prayer or their mental action, he berates them for not believing, for not having faith. It's the same word in Greek, by the way. In Greek, it's the same thing. Pistis means faith or belief. So, vital to understand that you need to have this ironclad faith or belief in the whole process. And very few people do. And this is the catch, because it leaves you stuck. When you have this energy of doubt, you feel stuck. You don't manifest what you want. So it reinforces a kind of disempowering cycle of fear and anxiety within you. And that's a big problem, because it means you're going to continue manifesting something that is vibrating at the same emotional frequency as that fear and doubt, which is not what you want. Now, the law of attraction is a law. It's a law just as much as gravity is a law. And that's the level of certainty you need. The law of attraction works 100% of the time, but the catch is, in our culture, we have never been trained to observe its results. We have never been trained to observe it. And that's why it's really important to break ourselves out of this worldview, the worldview that we're in. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes. But the only way to break you out of the Newtonian worldview you're stuck in, and fully pull you into the worldview that we're talking about here, is to give you evidence. And evidence can only come from your own experience. And the only way we can give you experience, and therefore evidence, is to get you manifesting reliably. And to do that, and it's really easy, we need an approach that's totally different from the one you've been using so far. We need an approach that's foolproof because, aside from being patterned after the divine creative energy, aside from being, made in the image and likeness of God, we human beings are also the stupidest people in the galaxy, I'm sure, and we can pretty much screw up anything. But we need a process that will provide you with evidence, conclusive, irrefutable evidence that you yourself will gather that will prove to you that your manifesting is 100% accurate, even as it stands right now. And we're going to show you how to do that. There is a process for that. And it's that's going to make the difference, because the moment you see that evidence with your own eyes, everything changes. You can't possibly then doubt that the process is real. You can't possibly. You'll be as sure of the law of attraction as you are of the law of gravity. If you take a baseball and throw it up in the air, it never even occurs to you that baseball isn't coming down. Why? Because you've been trained to look for the results of the law of gravity. You know that baseball is coming down. It never even occurs to you that baseball is going to keep on going and end up in orbit. You never even entertain that thought. And that's the kind of ironclad certainty that you need to have about the law of attraction in order for it to work properly, or at least in order for it to give you the results that you're looking for. So what we need, again, is simply an approach that allows you to gather data, gather evidence. And this evidence is what will convince you, because nothing else is going to do it. You have to see it with your own eyes. You have to see it with your own eyes, and only what you gather yourself is going to do it for you. And that's what, there is a process for that, and that can be done. It's not as hard as you think. Now, the next question for your exercise is this. On a scale of 0 to 10, taking your attempts at manifesting that you've had in the last little while, what is your level of belief in the law of attraction? I'm talking about your gut level belief. I'm not talking about your intellectual belief. I don't care about your intellectual belief. I care about what your gut is telling you. So on a scale of 0 to 10, if you find 100% belief, you can write down 10. But if you're more honest, you'll probably write down something in the neighborhood of 3, 4, or 5. I'm betting, because most people simply do not believe totally. There's too much doubt, too much anxiety about whether this is actually working. But it is working. It's working all the time. That's the catch. We're just not trained to observe it. And soon you will be. Trap number 5. Trying to manifest without making it real. Without making your goal real. So your goal has to be real to you. When your goal is real, seems real to you, when it emotionally seems real, then you're emotionally engaged. Now, no goal that is not here yet, in other words, say you want I'll just pick something. Say you want to manifest a new car in your life. There's a very simple, very material, very measurable thing, a car. If the car isn't here yet, if you don't have it yet, then it won't automatically seem real unless you make it real. It won't make itself real, that is. You have to do that part. Whatever your goal is, you have to be so passionately engaged with it that it seems to you as if you already have it. In other words, it has to be so real that you just about fool your own nervous system into believing it's already here. That's the level of engagement, the level of emotional engagement you need with anything you're trying to create in your life. And obviously, in order to get that kind of emotional engagement, you have to take action. You can't simply sit there. You have to take action. Now, how would you do that? We'll get to that in a second. But it means that you're enjoying the goal now. This is the key. You're enjoying it now. You know it's coming, but you're perfectly okay that it's still on the way. Otherwise, if you do not have this level of emotional engagement with what you're trying to bring in, with what you're trying to create in your life, I can tell you right now, your chances of changing what you create in your life are extremely limited. You'll continue to manifest, you'll continue to produce the same old results. So it's really vital to be able to do that. Now, how do we fail to make it real? Well, simple. We fail to put in place the strategies we need to make the goal real. And it is a matter of strategy. It's things that we have to do as human beings. We have to take certain actions in order for something to be real. Our problem is that very often what we're doing is we're still waiting for it to show up before we believe it's real. I won't really believe that I can get that car until the car is sitting in the driveway. But we have to reverse that perspective. We have to reverse the perspective, because that perspective doesn't work, and that perspective that I won't believe it till I see it is actually what's keeping things away. That's simply putting in place the whole dynamic that's preventing us from getting what we want. So we're waiting for it to show up so that we can start enjoying it, which is the wrong approach. We have to enjoy it now so that it will show up. Do you get the difference? Don't wait to start enjoying what it is you want to have in your life. Start enjoying it now, mentally and emotionally, so that it will show up. And if you look back at your life from childhood on and look at all the interesting, amazing, wonderful things you've brought into your life, and you have, no matter what your life is like now, you brought in some great stuff, not simply material things, but circumstances into your life. If you look at those objectively, you'll realize that every time that happened, you had this level of emotional engagement. So again, it's a product of this wrong worldview we have, the Newtonian worldview that we'll go into in a few minutes. But we need to reverse that worldview, because if you don't do that, you're going to be vibrating doubt, and you're trapped in the Newtonian worldview. Now, there's some fundamental strategies, of course, for doing this. And, you'll hear wonderful phrases. Napoleon Hill's phrase that you need a burning desire. You need to define your goal and get a burning desire for its achievement. That's a good way of putting it, or a magnificent obsession for your desire, for whatever it is. You need to engage your senses. So here's a key. The whole process of focusing on your goal must be pleasurable. It must be something you love to do. It must be something that makes you feel good. I cannot underline that enough. It is impossible to put enough emphasis on that point. It must make you feel good. It must make you feel amazing to do this. That is the key. It has to be a very positive, pleasurable, emotional experience. And in order to do that, by the way, you'll have to avoid thinking about how it's going to happen. If you get caught up in the how, if you get caught up in the mechanics of, I don't know, I'm not sure I know how to do this. Oh, well, if I don't know how to do this, well, then I suddenly don't feel good. I feel a bit depressed, et cetera, et cetera. You get caught up in the how, you're sunk. Forget the how. You don't need to know it anyway. And again, we'll talk more about that in a second. But the point is, there are lots of strategies you can use here, and I haven't got time to go into them in any detail at all, really, except you can use visual strategies, right? You can make things real by using your vision. In other words, by using, it could be pictures, it could be images, it could be things you find in magazines or on the internet. It could be, if it's a car you want, go down to the dealership, feel the car that you want, sit in it, see what it feels like, test drive it for that matter. Whatever it is, you can make it real to yourself. And you can do this with a little imagination. You can do this to absolutely any goal, not simply a very tangible, easy to define material one like a car, but anything. You can do this with absolutely any goal. Use your visual senses, use your hearing senses, use your sense of smell. That's a very powerful one that we often ignore. Use your sense of touch. Make it tactile, something you can feel. That's why, with reference to a car, going down and feeling it, sitting in it, is a great thing to do. If it's a house you want, go to open houses, look at new houses, look at old houses that are on the market. Walk through them, physically walk through them, take pictures, get your own picture taken inside. Whatever it is, make the whole thing real. So the last question for the exercise is simply this: on a scale of 0 to 10, how much effort have you put into making your goals real? How much effort have you put into making your primary goals real? And if you haven't ever, spent time looking for images to do with them, or trying to figure out how you can feel them, taste them, smell them, hear them, if you haven't been diving into it like that on that sort of level, then you're at no more than a 5 at the very least, or at the very most, out of 10. So very, very important. The final trap that we fall into, number 6, and I won't spend much time on this, is trying to manifest without curing what we call the failure disease. The failure disease, it's an expression that comes from David Schwartz, and he called this, he had another name for the failure disease. He called it excusitis. Excusitis. We're experts as human beings at making excuses. We use our age as an excuse. I'm too old. We use our physical appearance as an excuse. I'm not good looking enough. We use our intellect as an excuse. I'm not smart enough. We find excuses, and we don't take action, and we don't realize that in order to create in our life the things that we want, we actually have to take action. And that's going to be concerted action sometimes. It's going to be action that is really serious action that requires serious commitment from us. And it's that serious commitment that is going to cause the law of attraction to kick in and bring us what we want. It's that serious commitment, it's that decision that actually changes what happens in the universe to bring about what we want. We must be committed, because until we make a decision, until we move forward, until we're focused, nothing is happening. It's as if we're not putting out a signal that's strong enough to bring in the persons, events, and things that we need in order for all of this to unfold, whatever our goal is. And that's the catch. So we have to be able to do that. We absolutely must be able to focus and get past our excuses. If we want something in our life, we have to be ready to go for it and be willing to put in whatever it takes. But we just have all these excuses. So what we need is an approach that will help us hunt down our excuses and boot them out of our life permanently. And sometimes these excuses are difficult to uncover. They're not so obvious sometimes, but we all have them. And then we have to take full responsibility and move forward. But we need to figure out what these excuses are and always be alert to their manifestation in our life, because they pop up in different ways for all of us at different times. So those, Debra, are the 6 traps, and we all have fallen into them, and maybe we're all falling into them today.
Well, thank you so much for that. As a matter of fact, I don't think I'm going to tell my listeners where I fell on that scale 0 through 10 because I know many of them have a lot of respect for me and I don't want to blow that. But in the meantime, I know that you've put together an amazing, very, very generous offer for our community and everybody. To access this package for yourself, just click on the special offer button on this webpage. And hopefully in your package, you are going to explain to us how we can have complete faith that the law of attraction does exist and has been functioning perfectly in our life all along. So tell us what you have.
Absolutely. If you go to that webpage, what we've got there, Debra, is, first of all, a program called the Systematic Manifesting Miracle. And the Systematic Manifesting Miracle, or 3 weeks to easily, effortlessly, and reliably creating the life of your dreams and loving every moment of the process, is a really neat protocol we've developed that allows you to do everything we've talked about, to overcome all of those 6 traps, and to do it in a very scientific way. And when we call it Systematic Manifesting Miracle, that's the point. It really is systematic, and it's systematic and scientific. It's a very scientific procedure because what it allows you to do is use the law of attraction, use the manifesting process, get good at it in an environment that is very low threat, very low consequence. Well, really no threat, no consequence. And to do that on a daily basis for 21 days. It is a 21-day journey and protocol. And when you follow it, I'm with you on that 21-day journey. I have an audio for you every morning. And on that 21-day journey, you're going to learn how to use something we call interval design. Interval design is simply a process that allows you to deliberately outline the experience you want to have. First of all, for the whole day, but secondly, for particular parts of the day. Because if you think of your day, every day that you have, if you're most people, of course, and everybody's routine is different. But for most people, it's really easy to break up the day into very distinct parts or periods of activity, because usually in a particular period of activity, we're with the same people doing the same thing, and then we change and do something else, maybe with other people, or our location changes, maybe whatever it is. So you learn exactly how to use the power of your mind, to use your consciousness to change what you're going to experience in that upcoming interval of time. And that upcoming interval might be an hour or so, it might be 2 hours, but it's defined by your activities. So it fits into your schedule. And when you do that, you're amassing data. You're collecting information. Why is that important? It's because in order to prove to you that the law of attraction actually works and is as infallible as any other law, you have to know about your own emotional tone, so you have to learn to observe yourself, and you also have to look at what you wanted to experience and then look at the results. And by comparing those, you're simply collecting data. And the thing is, and this is the greatest part of it, is that even if you don't manifest what you want, it's all still data. It doesn't matter. It's just as good if you don't manifest what you want as if you did, because you're collecting information that is going to prove to you that the law of attraction is there in your life working perfectly. And when you see that, you will begin, granted slowly and over time, but much faster than you would otherwise think, you'll begin to create the experiences you want, because your belief level will shoot through the roof. Your level of faith in the process will shoot through the roof, and you will get very, very good at creating what you want. And you'll understand what it takes to do that. You'll have the steps, the proper steps to do that. You won't be compromised by using information that has only part of the process in it, which is unfortunately a lot of what's out there today. So it's designed to give you ironclad faith in the law of attraction on the one hand, but also to get you very good at it, because you'll never get this much practice anywhere else. And it's excellent practice because you're monitoring it. You're looking at what the results are, paying very, very close attention. This is some of the feedback we get, is people who do this report that they're so much more in tune with and attentive to their own feeling states. They're so much more aware of what's going on inside them emotionally. And they become, therefore, so much more in charge of that. So it's a really, really cool thing. And in that 21-day journey, there is the ebook, so that's the written version you can have. There's also the audio book in case you'd rather listen to it in the car or whatever. And the audio book and the ebook are there to outline the process for you. They're there to tell you about the process, and you have to really go through that first. So we don't start the 21-day journey until about 12 days after you get into the program. But we give you those first couple of weeks just to get your head around it and get organized and relax, and also to listen to some of the auxiliary audios, which are the 8 Mastering the Manifesting Process audios. These are things that expand on what I've talked about on the call here, things I simply didn't have time to go into. One is called The Importance of Feeling Consistently Great. That is perhaps the most important thing. There's one on switching from your rational guidance system to your intuitive guidance system. That's something we'll talk about in a couple minutes. How to free yourself from the tyranny of the Newtonian worldview. And again, we'll mention that in a moment as well. How to get totally clear on what you want to be, do, and have. Understanding your mind and the biology of the manifesting process. Your body as the key to feeling consistently great and how that works. How to clear emotional blockages quickly and effectively. And then the final audio in the series is an interview with a master energy healer, Catherine McClenahan. And Catherine McClenahan is telling you all about what energy healing can do for you. So that's a 21-day journey. Regularly, it's $147. But for you, right now, it's only $97. But there's much more. There's much more. Because when you get that, you will also get, as a bonus, my previous Law of Attraction program, which is called the Somatic Power Attraction Program. Somatic is in your body. And the Somatic Power Attraction Program teaches you everything about how your body contributes to the manifesting process, because your body is an integral part of it. Your body and your emotions are tied together. And as we've said, you attract from your emotions, from your emotional content, from your vibratory state, not from your simple thoughts. So that's why it's so important. And the Somatic Power Attraction program, by the way, Debra, just so you know, too, it began as a simple program, but it's evolved into an entire community. And there are now well over 600 people in this community, and we meet every month on a teleseminar to talk about different aspects of the manifesting process. So it's an ongoing education, and it's really a lot of fun. And with this bonus, Somatic Power of Attraction, what you're getting is a huge education in using your body through Chinese Qigong, which is the world's probably most impressive longevity technology. Chinese Qigong, sometimes referred to as Chinese yoga. And it teaches you how to take the stress out of life and how to use your body to get into the emotional space you want to be in. There's also a copy of my best-selling book, The 5 Pillars of Life, Reclaiming Ownership of Your Mind, Body, and Future, or How Ancient Traditions Can Give You Back Tranquility, Control, Health, Love, and Security. There's the Warriorship Black Belt program, which is a full-scale personal development program of 26 units, which teaches you basically everything that the educational system should have taught you and didn't. Things like exercise, nutrition, detoxification, time management, energy management, emotional self-management, leadership, all of this stuff, things that are integral to life. There's an interview with Dr. Carol Look, who, as you may know, in the world of the emotional freedom technique, is one of the top teachers, and she is the top teacher when it comes to using the emotional freedom technique to achieve abundance. And she created the audio specifically for this program. And then there are several other audios from myself for that program as well. Total value of just the bonus itself, the Somatic Power Attraction program, is $692 if you were to go to the different websites and just purchase it all. So in other words, it's really $839 of value for $97. And it's, as I said, it's a community. It's an ongoing community. So not only are you getting the 21-day journey, and not only am I with you through the audios on that 21-day journey, but it keeps going. It keeps going. And we've had some absolutely fantastic feedback on the Systematic Manifesting Miracle program. One of the great things was, as one guy named Ross writes, immediately after starting to use this system, I experienced the tremendous value of having the intent to experience my day in a favorable way, reminding me of an old piece of Sufi wisdom to always hold your intent before you, which I never really understood or practiced until now. And then Barry writes, I've already recommended your program to several friends, so that should say it all. As I mentioned in a previous email, I've spent tens of thousands of dollars on countless programs, often costing up to $2,000 each, and none of them were as effective as a Systematic Manifesting Miracle. This relatively simple and brilliant program is, in my opinion, the very best available. And believe me, I've tried all the best. They're all important teachers with excellent systems, but the Systematic Manifesting Miracle proved more effective because of its simplicity, focus on feeling great, and the brief daily audios. And so that's from Barry M. There is, of course, lots more, and we have just volumes of feedback on them. It is, it's just unending, but we can't go through all the testimonials. There just isn't time. But those are what you have. So in other words, if you want to overcome those 6 traps that we outlined, those things that are holding everyone back, that have held us all back, the Systematic Manifesting Miracle will do that. It will take you on a journey like none other, a very systematic journey. And if you follow that protocol, you're going to get incredible results. But there's one other thing. This is the Systematic Manifesting Miracle 2.0. So it's a new version. 2.0 adds a second protocol. The second protocol is a 14-day protocol that will teach you exactly how to make your goal so real that your nervous system actually believes you already have it. And when you achieve that level of engagement with your goal, that's when it becomes absolutely incredible. So that's a 14-day protocol, and it follows the 21-day protocol, and that's why we call it 2.0. So it's the next logical step, because each time we like to add something so that people who are already on the journey can experience the next logical step and keep going and keep making better progress.
Well, all I can say is this is not a really intelligent word, but wow. I mean, this is just a sensational offer, because the Systematic Manifesting Miracle, the 21-day program, I mean, you know what they say, you had me with hello. Obviously, it's going to be a game changer. and then to add on the 14 more days so that during those 14 days, we will really in every fiber of our being believe that we have it. And I know that works because I have done that in my life and manifested, but it does at least take 14 days. And the thing I love about what you've put together, Symeon, are the two words that somebody said in one of their testimonials. It's the systematic nature and how simple it is. Because as you pointed out, there are many people who have products that are similar, but it's like where to begin and, how long do you do each one? And it's all kind of complex. And yours is so intuitive and it's so simple and it's so systematic that you come out the other end and this life that that you could create is yours. And then on top of it, there are all these other bonuses. As we would say in my house, forget it. Throw that in the mix and your life could really be transformed. And the other thing I just have to say that I really appreciate is that you give a 90-day guarantee, because usually people give a 30-day guarantee, but giving a 90-day guarantee really shows how much you absolutely know that this will change lives, because to have that much confidence to give people 90-day satisfaction guarantee, I salute you. I don't know anyone else really who does that. So thank you for that as well.
Oh, well, you're welcome. And it's, the fact is, Debra, almost nobody ever wants their money back.
Yeah.
To tell you the truth, because they are getting so much out of this. And it's just the privilege for us is to be able to watch lives change. We've had some incredible things happen along those lines. So it's just been wonderful. But one thing I promised to do before I go, of course, if we still have a couple minutes, is to talk briefly about the whole worldview problem.
Yes, and Newton.
Isaac Newton, yes. Do you think it's
that troublemaker?
Do you think it's cruel and a little bit ironic that a British scientist who's been dead for nearly 300 years should be making your life miserable today? Well, I hope so, because it's true. Sir Isaac Newton was a brilliant scientist in the United Kingdom. His influence is almost unparalleled in the history of science. Very few people have had the impact that he has had. In all fairness to Sir Isaac Newton, when we talk about the Newtonian worldview, we tend to pin it on him, but actually he wasn't trying to found a worldview. He was just looking for mathematical principles of how the universe works on a very gross, overt mechanical level. And he was very successful at that. Newtonian physics has enabled us to make rapid scientific and technical advancements for over 300 years. It has allowed us to put a man on the moon and bring him back and all that sort of thing. So Newtonian physics works, but the only problem, of course, with Newtonian physics is we know that as a worldview, it is hopelessly outdated and actually wrong. The Newtonian worldview, and again, it's not Sir Isaac Newton's creation. It has to do with a lot of philosophical currents in Western Europe and the Americas that came along. But the Newtonian worldview posits a universe that is basically mechanistic, impersonal, and hostile. It, in fact, led, in a religious sense, to the belief we call deism or deism, depending on your pronunciation, which was something primarily found in the United States back in the 18th century. The idea that God somehow created the universe the same way a watchmaker makes a watch. So God made the universe, and like the watchmaker, after he started it ticking, he just let it go, let it run to see where it would go. So that's the idea that the universe is a hostile place, and there was a lot of philosophical precursors to that, certainly also in Western Christianity with the likes of Augustine and Anselm and Thomas Aquinas, but we won't go into that either. The fact is, the main precept of the Newtonian worldview is this, that life consists of external events that happen to you. In other words, life is outside you and happens to you. You are therefore its passive victim. And all you can hope is that life won't hit you too hard. What you want to do is stay low, stay off the radar, and try to cope. That's what the Newtonian worldview means. The Newtonian worldview also believes that matter, physical matter, is real and solid and real. So wherever you are right now, if you're sitting at a table or a desk and you knock on that desk, it feels solid and real. or a wall or the car dashboard or whatever it is. And with the Newtonian worldview, you're told this is solid and real. Now, we know scientifically that's actually not true. We've known this for over 90 years. For over 90 years, we've known that matter is not solid and real at all. We've known that matter doesn't technically exist. Matter is simply a state of energy. Everything is energy, and everything that we see as material substance is mostly empty space. So everything around us appears to exist one way to our senses, but actually exists in a very different way. Everything is energy. Now, the Newtonian worldview has a basic presupposition, and this is the most important one, that your consciousness, which is the sum total of your mind, your emotions, everything, your consciousness does not affect reality, does not affect physical reality. It cannot affect the world or how things happen. That is its fundamental driving force. There is no connection between consciousness and physical reality. So the Newtonian worldview believes that you cannot change your reality through your thoughts and emotions. Now, what does that mean? Well, it's very simple. That worldview has created for us what we call our obsession with the rational guidance system. Because in our society, we've been taught since we were knee-high to nothing to be problem solvers. And as problem solvers, we have been taught to come up with solutions individually for whatever challenge we have in life. So think about it. If you have a challenge in life, basically you are on your own. You have to come up with a solution using your rational mind and solve the problem. But what does this do? Well, first of all, it puts a huge burden on you because typically you find out you don't know what the answer is. Therefore, you get stressed, anxious, and fearful. It plummets you into a negative emotional state. A negative emotional state is disempowering. It takes away from you any possibility of manifesting what you would want. When you're in a negative emotional state, you lapse immediately into defensive physiology. And if you believe this worldview, then you believe that life happens to you from the outside, and the best you can do is cope. And people who are coping are always afraid. And people who are afraid can be manipulated. So people in power love this worldview because you can manipulate people en masse very easily. But what if this worldview is wrong? What if you do not have to know how? What if you do not have to come up with a solution to a challenge? What if all you had to know was what you wanted to see as a result? If you only had to know what the result is, wouldn't that be fantastic? And what we're here to tell you is that's the case. That really is the case. This is what ancient traditions have said for millennia, and it's what modern physics is telling us. And it's what our own experience with the law of attraction tells us too, that all we need to know is the solution we wish to experience, the result we wish to experience, not the how. And it's a huge liberation. And it means, once again, we realize what has always been there. The fact is, we have always had, all human beings have the power to create their own life. That power is given to us by divine design. If we are in the image and likeness of God, we are creators. We are co-creators, and we can create. And we do create. And only when we're creating deliberately are we, in fact, happy and functioning the way we're meant to function. So the Newtonian worldview, it's time to kick it out of your life. And using the 21-day journey actually is a way to kick it out of your life, because that's where you see that this whole process really does work. And you begin to play with it and have fun with it and really make it part of yourself, make it part of who you are, and reclaim your power as a human being. And this is very important because this whole, people often think the law of attraction is some sort of crass notion of just getting stuff that you want, of just that it's somehow crass and materialistic. But nothing could be further from the truth, because it's in fact a spiritual process. It's a spiritual process because it's a complete emotional detoxification of the kind that everybody needs and almost nobody ever gets. Because only when we are emotionally detoxified is the law of attraction, the manifesting process, going to produce what we really want. And it's the only way we can become who we really are. So this whole process is a spiritual process that, first of all, turns us into the person we're meant to be, the human being we're meant to be. We become genuinely human for the first time. You can't be genuinely human if you're simply coping with life. If you think that your mind, your emotions don't affect reality, you're only coping. And if you're coping, you're not a true human being yet. So this is why this whole process is so revolutionary, no matter how ancient it is, and why it's so important to kick poor Sir Isaac out of your life. So there we go, Deb. You decided to kick him out?
I definitely have kicked him out because I had heard that from you before, and that was a life changer for me. Well, so many of the things that you share are life changers for me. But, you know, at the beginning when I asked you to tell a little bit about your story, and you did, and this has been completely fresh, completely new. You always come up with profound new angles and new information for my listeners. And I could listen to the same thing over and over because you're such an excellent teacher.
Well, you're very kind.
That's why I am so absolutely positive that your program, the Systematic Manifesting, 21 days, come on. Most of us have lived 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years. 21 days, one more time. If you haven't done it yet, just click on the special offer button on this page to see for yourself what an amazing package this is. You will be so glad you did. And I know that there's so much more to learn from you. I know it's in that package. I highly encourage everyone to go look at Symeon's special offer right now. Experience it for yourself. You have nothing to lose and a life with Sir Isaac Newton kicked out to gain.
Yes.
Before we sign off, are there any final words that you'd like to share with everyone before we say goodbye?
Well, I truly believe that the 21-day journey is the key to a completely new life, a complete change, and because I've seen it with so many people. Very good. Well, thank you, and thank you so much for being with us today. This has been, as always, eye-opening. You are brilliant. I love the way you present knowledge, and I thank you for what you're doing for the planet. Well, thank you so much for having me, Debra, and I really appreciate, too, what you're doing by bringing all these amazing teachers here for everybody. It's a wonderful thing. Well, thank you, and you know you are invited back anytime. I'll be here. Great. And thank you to everyone for spending this time with me and with Dr. Symeon Rodger, and I look forward to when we're all together again